Welcome back, everyone. Scientists are now uncovering the secrets of Alaska's past on the island of Afognak near Kodiak. An archaeological site is now revealing how natives and Russians lived there more than 200 years ago. Inside Alaska correspondent Kirk Chason has the story.
Piece by piece, the site they call Dig Afognak is teaching archaeologists about a turning point in Alaskan history. They first discovered the site in 1994. It dates back to the period when Europeans first made contact with Alaskan natives. This was the site of a Russian artel, a work group dating back to about the 1790s. Russians and natives used this as a base to go out and hunt sea mammals from. Scientists are studying the influence the two groups had on one another, and they're doing that by compiling information they get from even the smallest artifacts.
Despite the tale that we read in a lot of the history books where native peoples lost their traditional ways and their culture changed so rapidly, what we're finding out here is that native peoples persisted, maybe even very strongly, that their toolkit remained traditional. We're still finding harpoons, and they're still eating traditional foods. I think that the Russians were also probably changing just as much as the native peoples. I think there was a lot more interaction and sharing.
After the Russians came the Americans. Cannery workers lived on this same site during the 1880s.
We've been finding a lot of odd artifacts in here. It's just a weird house. Lots of walls superimposed on. I was working here yesterday, that's a wall sitting on top of a floor. This 1880s wall on top of an early 1800s floor.
Nobody's been digging there this year, because they're going to fill it in a couple of weeks.
Also learning from the dig site, Kodiak Island students like 14-year-old Amanda Miles.
Well, it was a lot different and probably a hard life living out here.
The science camp these students are here for is part of a 5-year project involving school districts and native corporations from around the state.
The camp is an attempt to focus on how native people use their own version of science to figure out how to survive and relate to the resources that were around them as a source of food and tools. And
not all the students are youngsters. 44-year-old Nick Heitman has 3 grown children, and he's now a sophomore at UAA.
Decided, well, heck, it's time for me to go back to school. Last spring I took an archaeology course at Kodiak College, and I was bit. I decided this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Finding out our past, being in the outdoors, using your mind.
17-year-old Alutiiq native Archie Sargent is interning at the site. He's literally sifting through pieces of his own cultural heritage.
I think it's pretty cool learning about the past. I mean, see what they did and what they lived in and what they used to hunt.
The students and most elders will only spend a week here, but the archaeologists and staff have been here for months. What's it like to live at a dig site? Everyone pitches in to help with the chores. In the dinner tent, Sven Harkinson and his wife Mary serve up more than 120 meals a day.
Yeah, we have a gill net out there, and the crew brings in salmon. We smoke them, make kippered salmon called sikyuk. And it's the alued bacon in the summertime. So we have a chance, we'll cook seal and whatever they bring in. Hopefully they'll bring in a deer so we can have venison.
Oh, we really have to walk?
Long ways.
Across the bay, these Kodiak Island students and elders are strolling into the more recent past. Their destination, the now abandoned Afognak village. First stop, Graveyard Point. Betty Nelson's youngest brother, John Larson, was buried here 40 years ago.
Well, he was a young man. He played the guitar and he sang, and he was a commercial fisherman. It was just a boating accident and he drowned. He was a good brother, and so I just have good memories.
So why did the Afognak residents leave this picturesque seaside village? The answer lies in the Good Friday quake of 1964.
The whole house began to shake and the ground just started going, you know, just like waves. Sounded like a freight train going down underneath your feet.
After the quake, the afognak tides rose dangerously close to the beachfront homes.
Some said, well, we could move down that way and build on the hill, you know, for higher ground. But all of those who went through the quake, we weren't willing to take that chance again.
Most of the villagers eventually moved to the town of Port Lions on Kodiak Island. In the Russian section of Old Afognak, Oli Molly is showing his daughter and grandson a piece of their personal history.
Reader's Digest?
This is the house where his mother and his mother's mother lived.
I wish I could have been a part of it. I never had the opportunity to visit this place when it was inhabited. Only after the fact, after the tidal wave and everything.
Back on the other side of the island, students get a tour of some ancient Alutiiq homes. These date back several hundred years. Some included the native version of a sauna, called a banya.
Bring your hot rocks from the fire into the banya and you splash the rocks. And since your tunnel is low, the roof to the tunnel would have been like this. You would have had to crawl in. So since the tunnel's low, the heat just doesn't come out.
The camp also gives the children a chance to learn native ways and the Aleut language. It's a welcome sight to Alutiiq elders.
I can see the kids really picking up instead of watching TV and learning our ways of old ways of living that we did. And it's very happy.
After the artifacts leave Afognak, they come here to the lab at Kodiak's Alutiiq Museum. Roy Rostopsov spends hours cleaning and cataloging them.
Some of this stuff are very fragile and it's pretty hard to keep it from breaking when you're handling it.
Finally, the display room, where you can see the Russian and native artifacts side by side.
There's a flint there from a flintlock rifle, which would have been imported from somewhere else, and a piece of glass, a bottle glass there. In back here we have a sea otter hunting dart that was used by the Alutiiq hunters when they were hunting the sea otters for the Russian-American Company.
Afognak Native Corporation leaders say most of their members have been almost completely absorbed into other cultures over the years. They say studying sites like these is helping Alutiiqs reconnect with their past.
As you saw in that report, college students can help out on the dig for college credit. Kirk Chason joins us now with more. Kirk.
Well, the season is over for this year. They'll start digging again in late May or early June of next year, but you don't have to be a college student to go there. This is part of the Afognak Native Corporation's efforts to generate some revenues through ecotourism. So for $1,950, you can enjoy a 7-day session. That includes a tour of Kodiak and hikes on Afognak to see petroglyphs or other sites there. You get to help with the dig, and they have guest lecturers. It is not completely primitive, but you should know there are no showers. The only way to bathe is in the native sauna called the banya. And you can contact the Afognak Native Corporation at the number you see here on your screen, 1-800